Hi, welcome to another week of our house parties, and this past week we did part 4 of the Rise series that Pastor Pat did, and I'm going to let him just give you a quick rundown on it.
Right. Talked about Lazarus is us, and we went to John's Gospel, chapter 11, one of my favorite portions of the New Testament, to read about the account of Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead. And we talked about, used that as a springboard into how we participate in resurrection today. So I started the message in John chapter 11 with some observations about Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead and how we can learn some very important truths that can make resurrection a reality, not only in our lives, but also in the lives of others.
Yeah, okay. So by now you've probably got a handout, much like this, that your house party host has given you, and it's got 5 things on it of points that were shared in this week's message. So if you would take that out and go down the list, we're going to walk through it just real quick with you and find at least one point that is relevant to you to share briefly within your group about that, how you have experienced it. So the first one, honey, I'm just going to say them and let you just explain them a little bit. So the first one is Jesus knows some things that you don't.
That's right. When Jesus and the disciples got the message from Mary and Martha that Lazarus was sick, Jesus didn't do anything about it. He stayed in the same place 2 more days, and he said, "This sickness is not unto death." Now we know that Lazarus died, but it did not end in death, did it? Because Lazarus was raised from the dead. So Jesus knew that, but the disciples didn't know it. Mary and Martha certainly didn't know it. And it's important for us to understand that when we go to God and we're looking for resurrection in our lives, resurrection of dreams, or resurrection happening in somebody else's life, that Jesus knows more than we do. Yeah. And we've got to trust His knowledge and His understanding and just stand in faith and trust Him.
Right. And then number 2 is Jesus sometimes shows His love in unpredictable and counterintuitive ways.
Counterintuitive ways, yeah. Sometimes the way God deals with us, He shows us His love, but sometimes it's very unpredictable and counterintuitive. For instance, when they heard that Lazarus was sick, that they stayed in the same place. They didn't move, and which was probably very counterintuitive to Mary and Martha. When He shows up,
certainly feel that way.
Certainly so. When Jesus shows up after Lazarus has been dead for 4 days. So, but the Bible's very clear when it says that He loved Lazarus.
Yeah.
He loved Mary and Martha. But He knew what the end result was going to be. But sometimes we're on the wrong side of the screen, and we don't get it. This is how you show your love to me. You wait 4 days, and now He's dead. But because of God's plan, He knew that the end result was going to be victory. It was going to be resurrection. Sometimes Jesus does show His love in a very unpredictable way. We thought He was going to be here on time, but when He was late, it was still turned out all right.
Okay, then number 3 is sometimes Jesus can easily be misconstrued.
He can be misconstrued. He can be misunderstood. We make many mistakes, really, in our relationship over the course of our lifetime with Jesus. Sometimes, I know maybe many of you have heard direction from the Holy Spirit, and you knew definitely the Holy Spirit talked to you, but the way it turned out, it was very different. But it's because that sometimes we don't hear or we don't read Jesus very well. But it turns out right. So that's part of that.
Okay. So moving on to number 4. Jesus puts greater value on effect of the circumstance. Am I reading that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Jesus puts greater value on effect of the circumstance upon you than the circumstance itself.
Yeah, so it's often been said that God is more concerned with your character than your comfort. And so in the circumstances of our lives, he has more places more value on the effect of this circumstance upon us than on the circumstance itself. Lazarus is dying. Lazarus is near death. Jesus said, that's not the important thing here. The important thing here is that you trust me even when things look impossible, even when things look completely wrong. You trust me. So he was more concerned with the effect of the circumstance than on the circumstance itself. He said, didn't I tell you that if you believed that Lazarus would be raised from the dead? And so he was placed more value in the effect of the circumstance upon them. Yeah.
Got that. Okay, number 5, and the last one is Jesus cannot be experienced theologically, but he can only be experienced in a personal relationship.
In personal relationship, absolutely. Theology is important. Knowing doctrine, catechism, all that is important. But you can't experience Jesus in a book of theology. You can only experience Jesus in a personal one-on-one relationship where you have fellowship, where you commune, where you
not like this.
Yeah,
right?
when you bring your needs to him, when you talk to him, when you ask for direction. That's how we experience Jesus. Now, we can know about Jesus through theology, through doctrine, through teaching. All those things are very important, but we can only experience Jesus in relationship. And that's what Jesus had to teach Mary and Martha when he showed up 4 days late. And Martha said, well, I know the doctrine of the resurrection of the dead at the last day. And Jesus said, Martha, you're looking at the resurrection. I am the resurrection. So it's very important to
that's awesome.
Personal relationship. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to just take a quick minute in closing and just invite you on purpose to invite someone else to come to your house parties.
Yes.
Listen, this is about connecting. It's about building relationships, and not just with people in our church. Not just with people from C3. So get out of your invite church box and invite people in the community. Invite your neighbor, invite your coworker to come and just have a night at your house party and join with you and build some relationships. So we hope you're having fun, and we appreciate you. We love you all so much, and we will look forward to seeing you again next week.
God bless.